Think back to the first time you were approved for credit. You finally get approved for a credit card. Not a huge limit, maybe $2,000. But suddenly, things that were impossible yesterday feel available today. Maybe it was a credit card, a car loan, or a student loan that made your education possible. Whatever it was, do you remember how it felt? Not scary, not like a warning. It felt like relief, like a door that had been closed had finally opened. And that feeling made complete sense. Debt came into your life looking like help. It solved a real problem, filled a real gap, made something possible. That's not stupidity. That's a completely rational response to the situation in front of you. But today, we need to talk about why that feeling happens, what it's actually telling you, and why understanding it might be one of the most valuable money lessons you ever learn. Because if debt causes so much stress, why does it feel so good at the start? The answer is simple. Debt removes a constraint. One day you couldn't afford something, the next day you could. Your options expanded instantly. And the human brain has a very predictable response to that. It labels it as freedom. There's research that backs this up. Behavioral economists have studied what they call the pain of paying, the emotional discomfort we feel when we spend money. What they found is that this pain changes dramatically depending on how you pay. When you hand over cash, your brain registers something close to a loss. When you swipe a card or sign a loan, that signal is significantly quieter because the cost hasn't actually left yet. It's deferred. And deferred cost is invisible cost. This is not a personality flaw. This is how the human brain is wired, and it's something the lending industry has understood for a very long time. The entire architecture of modern credit, the approvals, the monthly payments, the minimum payment options, is built around this psychological reality. It is designed to feel manageable in the moment, even when the full picture is much heavier. Let's make this concrete. Imagine two people taking the exact same vacation. Same hotel, same flights, same everything. $5,000. The first person saves for 2 years and books the trip when the money is ready. The second puts it on a credit card and goes next month. The person who saved felt every dollar going in, the sacrifices, the discipline, the months of patience. By the time they arrived at the airport, they had a complete emotional picture of what this trip cost. The person who borrowed felt almost nothing going out. One swipe. The cost was spread across future months, invisible at the moment of enjoyment. The vacation felt nearly free because the paying hadn't happened yet. That gap between when you enjoy something and when you actually pay for it is where a lot of financial trouble begins. When spending doesn't hurt, there's no natural break. The feedback loop between action and consequence has been broken, and it becomes easy to make decisions your future self will be left to deal with. There's another layer to this that's easy to miss. Debt doesn't just buy things, it buys versions of ourselves. The car that fits the image you want to project, the apartment in the neighborhood that signals you've arrived, the wardrobe, the lifestyle that looks from the outside like you've already made it. And sometimes that's a deliberate investment, but often it's something quieter, purchasing a future identity before the financial foundation exists to support it. You're not buying a product, you're buying the feeling of being someone you haven't quite become yet. And that feeling is extraordinarily powerful, which is exactly why it's so easy to borrow for. This is also why interest is more dangerous than most people appreciate. It's not just that it adds cost, it's that the real cost is invisible at the moment of decision. The number that feels real when you're approving a purchase is the monthly payment. The actual total, what you'll pay over the full term including interest, is buried in the fine print. And the monthly payment is specifically designed to feel small. Then comes the phase almost nobody talks about. Debt stops feeling unusual. At the beginning, you were aware of it, maybe had a plan, but weeks become months, the payment becomes routine, just another line in the budget. The balance fades to background noise, and without it being a conscious decision, you absorb a quiet belief. Everyone has debt. This is just how it is. And in many ways, that's true. Debt is deeply embedded in modern financial life. But here's what matters about normalization. What repeats stops alarming you. We adapt to our circumstances, even ones that are quietly working against us. Debt doesn't get safer because you stopped noticing it. The balance is still there. The interest is still compounding. Familiarity is not the same as fine. The turning point, when debt stops feeling like freedom and starts feeling like a weight, almost never arrives dramatically. It arrives slowly. It's the month you realize your paycheck is already committed before it arrives. The decision you couldn't make because the money was already spoken for. The flexibility that quietly disappeared. The sense that your financial life has narrowed, and the reason isn't your income, it's your obligations. You stop working towards something and start maintaining what you already owe. The same mechanism that once felt like an open door now feels like a ceiling. If this cycle sounds familiar, it doesn't say something bad about you. The cost of living has risen faster than wages for decades. Credit is actively marketed as the bridge across that gap. Emergencies are unavoidable, and not everyone has savings to absorb them. Most people in debt didn't get there because they were reckless. They got there because filling gaps the system told them credit was the right tool to fill. Understanding that doesn't erase the debt, but it changes the conversation from shame to clarity, and clarity is where better decisions come from. Debt is not inherently bad. A mortgage that builds equity, a business loan that generates income, a student loan connected to real earning potential, these can all make sense. The question is never simply, is this debt? The question is whether it's being taken on consciously with a clear understanding of the real cost and what you're trading for it. Before you borrow anything, ask yourself 3 questions. Am I buying an asset or a feeling? Something that holds value or something that depreciates the moment I have it? Can my future self actually afford this? Not the monthly payment, but the full cost over the full term. And what am I giving up? Because every debt payment is money that can't go towards savings, investment, or a different choice next year. If you can answer those clearly and the decisions still make sense, you're borrowing intentionally. You're using debt as a tool, not responding to a feeling. That's a completely different relationship with money. If debt felt like freedom at first, that doesn't mean you were naive. It means it was designed to feel that way.